welcome to this month's episode of Fintech Firebrand. I'm Virginie O'Shea, founder of Firebrand Research, and I'm here to chat to you about this month's FinReg and FinTech news. Now, it has been a busy month so far for anyone monitoring post-trade in Europe, given we've had a lot of work done towards moving the industry towards shortening the settlement cycle in October 2027. Earlier in the month, we had the European Commission put out their statement that the official deadline has been set for the 11th of October in 2027. So that's now set in stone or near enough with regards to a move. And that's including the UK and Switzerland, who've both committed to that move as well. So we have the whole region moving on the same date, which, as you can imagine, is going to be quite the undertaking, given the number of different market infrastructures, different groups, different regulators and such that need to be involved, different currencies we're dealing with as well. So big moves there. One of the key things that needs to be done ahead of time on the regulatory front is some tweaks and changes to the Central Securities Depositories Regulation, CSDR, with particular reference to the settlement discipline regime, which has already been proposed to be amended with regards to settlement penalties themselves. But this month, we also saw ESMA put out a consultation document around the middle office processes that need to go on ahead of trades being confirmed and accepted on both sides before they go to settlement, and also looking at some of the services that CSDs need to offer. So trying to bring some level of harmonization across the region with regards to the different tools that are being offered by the financial market infrastructures in question. So one of those tools being auto collateralization to help smooth over any issues with regards to collateral, and also partial settlement as well. That's sort of hold and release functionality for partial settlement needs to be introduced across all CSDs within the region. Now, some already do offer that functionality, limited take up thus far, but it will be interesting to see how much work is done over the coming months to set those services up. Now, the ESMA proposals are only in consultation stage at the moment. As we know, with European regulation, it takes a little while to get going sometimes. The average is 19 months from start to finish. So it's going to be quite the endeavour to get all of this through the line, all of these things agreed. The industry has until, I think it's the 14th of April, to feed back on the proposals that have been made. One of the interesting ones there is adding in a step, or a requirement within client onboarding to gather data such as standing settlement instructions at that point. So that's an interesting new requirement added in. So certainly a lot of food for thought for people active in post-trade for the next few months to talk about. Everybody is at the moment planning or thinking about what T+1 in Europe will look like. Firebrand itself is doing some research on this. I think I mentioned it last month. We're doing a lot of interviews at the moment with industry participants to figure out where everybody is with their planning, what kinds of lessons have been learned with US and Canadian T+1, and how much can be applied in terms of best practices. So lots of interesting discussions we're having. We'll be talking to you later once we've got all of those findings in. Hopefully we'll have some really good stats as well to be able to share with the industry. So looking forward to that later this month as we continue on with our research. Other interesting developments. Looking at across the pond, there's been a lot of change. I'm sure I started the year talking about some of the things we could expect. Lots of market volatility as a result, of course, lots of tariffs and things being introduced by the new administration in the US. But on the FinReg front, we have now seen appointments being made across the different regulators. We have confirmation that in the CFTC we'll have Brian Quintens, who actually used to be a commissioner at the CFTC prior to that. He's actually just coming back from a stint at as a general counsel at a crypto firm. So interestingly, he will be coming back in from just an industry experience within the crypto sector, big area of focus for the CFTC going forward. So certainly that will be helpful, I guess, for him in reviewing the market and what's going on out there with regards to regulating that sector. We also, as I've mentioned previously, we're going to see Paul Atkins take the helm at the SEC. Provided everything is approved. So we will have an interesting dynamic between two pro-crypto heads of each regulatory agency that's in the securities markets within the US market. So it'll be interesting to see what kinds of dynamics happen there. We're already seeing the SEC has rebranded its crypto enforcement division. It's actually now called the Cyber and Technology Unit, I believe, or Next Generation Technology Unit. So definite reframing of what they're focusing upon, maybe less of an enforcement activity mentality or focus. That's certainly something that has been discussed by the acting chair, Ueda, at the SEC as well. So certainly lots of change on the FinReg front. Interesting that we are seeing a lot of discussion across the globe in terms of using Bitcoin as a reserve, or a Bitcoin reserve used by central banks. There's a number of central banks looking at that. Continues to be a discussion. Interesting to see such a volatile assets being thought of as something that you would hold for financial stability, but always interesting to see new developments on that front. I will hold my judgment as to whether that's a good idea or not, but certainly it will be interesting to see the dynamics there. Now, on the fintech and developments front in capital markets, it's been an interesting month as well. There's been a lot of discussion about AI as usual, and the progression of AI and developments due to DeepSeek popping up in China, and that sort of challenging the incumbent providers, the major providers within the current AI realm, with particular reference to the large US firms there, the big techs that have been dominant so long, and the sort of underlying firms that they've invested in, like OpenAI and Microsoft. Interesting to see that sort of dynamic develop. There's a lot of discussion about whether we'll see more disruptive entrants with regards to different countries, maybe within Asia, with regards to the developments of AI, focusing on operational efficiency and cost reduction rather than this sort of race within AI that we've seen in the US front. Also, from a sort of tech perspective, we've seen some interesting developments with regards to the exchanges looking at 22-hour, extending their windows to 22-hour trading rather than not quite 24 hours. It's been approved for a new entrant in the SEC approved last year. Will be entering the market this year. We're looking at NYSE potentially extending to 22 hours. What does that mean for people's workloads? What does that mean for resilience and stability and liquidity? Lots of questions on that front, I'm sure I've mentioned before, but certainly we're seeing that progress, that discussion progress a lot further than it had done last year, after there was some degree of consultation with the industry on the topic. We will see more exchanges, no doubt, discussing that. What does that mean for Europe as well? Will we see movements here towards longer trading hours, which is sort of in opposition to what we had discussed over the last few years of shortening trading hours, but interesting to see that dynamic, especially as T+1 changes workloads and timeframes. So lots of interesting grist from the FMIs, financial market infrastructures. On that front, we've also seen an interesting partnership pop up this month with Intercontinental Exchange, not always easy to say, or ICE, and they have announced that they're now partnering with Reddit for sentiment analytics. So previously we saw a lot of sentiment analytics focused on Twitter. Arguably, since Musk has bought Twitter, there is a lot of misinformation, disinformation on that channel. So maybe sentiment analytics have moved away from that channel just because of its lack of reliability in terms of market sentiment. Not surprising that Reddit has popped up, though, given the amount of retail investors that are using that particular channel. It could be a particularly good tool for judging what is buzzing within the retail investor community in particular. So definitely interesting partnership there. Maybe we'll see more of those kinds of partnerships with Reddit going forward as well across that particular landscape. Another contentious topic in the US was the consolidated audit trail and the inclusion of retail investor data within within the CAT. So that has now been excluded. So personally identifiable information is not going to be included in the CAT, the consolidated audit trail for regulators. So that was a win for the industry on that topic. So certainly that program of work has been ongoing for some time. We've had quite a lot of change in it. It has not been the smoothest of rides with regards to delivering the CAT, but interesting to see that that feedback has been taken on board, particularly as the tone related to regulation is changing in the US and deregulatory efforts are coming to the fore. I guess my final thoughts for the month relate to some of the dynamics that are going on in the UK. We have seen a lot of discussion amongst the House of Lords with regards to the Financial Conduct Authority's proposed naming and shaming rules. Now, this is part of this idea of increasing individual accountability and governance at financial institutions. The senior managers certification regime, which was introduced a fair few years ago now, has been deemed relatively ineffective at holding individuals to account within organisations. So the FCA had been looking at extending sort of the accountability, the governance there within financial institutions to having a naming and shaming regime, not individuals in particular, but more from the institutional side of things. Now, there was a lot of debate about this within the industry, not a very popular topic within the industry, one would say, and the House of Lords also deemed it to be relatively over the top with regards to naming and shaming, largely because it could result in witch hunts. Now, it's interesting to see governance and accountability becoming such a hot button topic across the industry. Arguably, maybe there will be changes in the US on this front. Corporate governance has been a bit of a buzzword topic over the last few years there too. So it remains to be seen what the sort of solution to that is. How do we hold financial institutions better to account? How do we make individuals more responsible within their own organisations? Certainly, there are some positive aspects of SMCR. We might not have seen that much in terms of enforcement actions, but we have seen a lot of Dear CEO letters. We've seen a fair amount of pressure on individuals when it comes to accountability within their own organisations. So there are pluses and minuses. We do think that the naming and shaming regime is likely to be diluted or probably go away, largely because of this negative feedback. But looking at corporate governance, corporate accountability, and financial institution transparency, all big topics that will continue to be debated within the industry, and the pendulum will swing back and forth, no doubt, across different markets as to which direction is taken.